Chapter 19. Bloody Connections. Riley stood there, staring at Katie's badge that had been embedded in the tree, the sunlight reflecting off it, making it sparkle in an eerie way. He couldn't believe his eyes. How could a badge be fused with a tree? It was as if the tree had absorbed it and incorporated it into its structure. It was a bizarre sight, one that left Riley feeling unsettled. He took out his phone and snapped a few pictures of the badge and the tree. He knew he needed to document this strange phenomenon. Then he carefully cut the badge free, placing it in an evidence bag. He couldn't help but wonder if there were more hidden objects in the trees. He would have to examine them closely. Riley's mind was racing with questions and theories. How were the trees connected to the crime? Why were they blooming out of season? And most importantly, who was responsible for all of this? He knew he needed to find answers, and he needed to find them fast. Leaving the crime scene, Riley headed back to the police station. He wanted to consult with Officer James and Becky, the digital evidence technician, about the new developments. He hoped they might have some insights or theories that could help unravel the mystery. As Riley entered the station, he spotted James at his desk. "James, I found something at the crime scene. You need to see this," Riley said, excitement and urgency in his voice. James looked up, curious. "What is it, Detective?" Riley showed him the evidence bag containing Kate's badge with a few chunks of wood still lodged in grooves. "Look at this. It was embedded in one of the trees at the crime scene. I don't know how or why, but the tree absorbed it somehow." James's eyes widened in surprise. "That's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. What does it mean?" "I don't know yet, but it's a significant piece of evidence. We need to figure out the connection between these trees and the crime," Riley replied. Just then, Becky walked over to join the conversation. "What's going on?" she asked, noticing the badge in Riley's hand. Riley filled her in on the discovery. "Becky, do you think there's any way the video footage could be related to these trees? Is there any chance it's been manipulated or tampered with?" Becky pondered for a moment. "It's unlikely, but not impossible. The encryption on the footage was strange, almost like someone intentionally scrambled it. We couldn't decipher it without knowing the encryption method." Riley nodded, deep in thought. "We need to find out more about these trees and their significance. James, I want you to dig into any information you can find on Japanese cherry trees, particularly the Shida-Rezakura variety. I want to know if there are any cultural or historical connections." James nodded, ready to take on the task. "Consider it done, Detective. I'll start the research right away." Riley turned to Becky. "And Becky, keep working on the video footage. We need to break that encryption. If there's anything else unusual or suspicious, let me know immediately." Becky nodded, her determination evident. "I won't give up until I crack it, or it cracks me, Detective. I'll keep you updated on any progress." With the team back in action, Riley felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew they were onto something significant, something that could potentially lead them to the truth. As he sat at his desk, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, but there were still many unknowns. Riley had a long road ahead. Riley and James delved into their research on the Shida-Rezakura cherry tree, exploring its cultural and historical significance. They discovered that this particular variety was known for its elegant weeping branches and vibrant pink blossoms. The tree was revered in Japanese culture, symbolizing beauty, transience, and the arrival of spring. Its blossoms were often associated with renewal and the fleeting nature of life, none of which gave them the slightest clue as to how they appeared from nowhere with a badge embedded in it. As they immersed themselves in their studies, the call came in about a gruesome discovery near a cherry tree on a street corner. Riley's heart sank as he realized the possible connection. He signaled to James, and both hurried to the crime scene. When they arrived, a small crowd had gathered around the area, kept at bay by police tape. The head, unmistakably detached from a human body, lay beside a blossoming Shida-Izakura cherry tree. The scene was both horrifying and perplexing. Riley approached the head cautiously, his mind racing with questions. Who was this person, and how did they end up in such a gruesome manner? And more importantly, why was the head placed beside a cherry tree, just like Kate's, with his mind working through a crime scene as it was just a puzzle that needed to have the pieces put together? This one was turning out to be a puzzle with new pieces being created as time passed. James followed closely behind, his face displaying a mix of shock and determination. He scanned the surroundings, looking for any potential clues or witnesses. It was then that he noticed something protruding from the trunk of the cherry tree. A wallet. "Detective, look over there!" James called out, pointing towards the tree. Riley's attention shifted to the wallet, partially embedded in the tree trunk, similar to how Kate's badge had been found. It was a chilling discovery, and the pieces of a very large puzzle were slowly coming together. This was an unmistakable pattern emerging, but was there also a connection between the victims other than the cherry trees? Riley wondered. Riley carefully extracted the wallet from the tree, placing it in an evidence bag. He examined its contents and found identification belonging to the reported elder abuser from the hospital over a week ago. The man had a troubled history, and his actions had raised alarms among the medical staff. But what led him to this gruesome fate? "This can't be a coincidence," Riley murmured, his voice filled with a mix of anger and despair. "There's a deliberate connection between these victims and the cherry trees. Someone is sending a message." James nodded in agreement, his gaze fixed on the scene. "But what is the message, Detective? And who would go to such lengths? I mean, think about it. This tree has to be at least 15 feet tall. How would you even move it to plant it here? Hell, the roots seem to be growing down through the concrete. It shouldn't be possible." James stopped talking out of fear. Others might start to think he was losing his mind. Riley pondered for a moment, his eyes scanning the area for any other possible evidence. "We need to find more information on the victims, their backgrounds, and their possible connections to the cherry trees. There has to be something tying them together, something that can lead us to the perpetrator." As the forensic team arrived to process the crime scene, Riley and James took a step back, their minds racing with the urgent need to find answers. The stakes were high, and time was of the essence. They couldn't afford to let another victim fall prey to this twisted game. With the new discovery, the investigation took an even darker turn. Riley knew they were dealing with a cunning and dangerous individual who was orchestrating these macabre displays. The clock was ticking, and the pressure was mounting. They needed a breakthrough, and they needed it soon. Riley and James realized the importance of quickly gathering as much evidence as possible. They needed to uncover any surveillance footage that could shed light on the events surrounding the discovery of the severed head and the cherry tree. Riley turned to James and issued a clear directive. "James, we need to pull video footage from any cameras in the vicinity," Riley said with urgency. "Send them directly to Becky, our digital tech. She'll be able to analyze and enhance the footage for us." James nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He swiftly contacted the local authorities responsible for the area's surveillance cameras, requesting access to the recordings from the designated time frame. Simultaneously, he reached out to Becky, their skilled digital technician, informing her of the incoming footage and its potential significance. Within minutes, Becky responded, assuring them that she was ready and waiting to receive the files. She had a reputation for her expertise in analyzing digital evidence, and her contributions had proved invaluable in previous cases. While James coordinated the acquisition of the video footage, Riley took a moment to survey the crime scene once again. He examined the surroundings, looking for any additional clues that might have been overlooked. His eyes scanned the area, searching for anything out of place or potentially linked to the grisly crime. As James obtained the footage, he ensured that all cameras within the vicinity were covered, including traffic cameras, nearby businesses, and even private residences with security systems. Every angle could provide a vital clue, and they couldn't afford to overlook anything. Once the video files were collected, James swiftly transmitted them to Becky, who was already set up in the digital analysis room at the precinct. She began the process of reviewing and enhancing the footage, employing her expertise to extract any relevant information. Hours passed as Becky meticulously examined the footage, enhancing the clarity and focusing on critical moments. The tension in the room was palpable as Riley and James awaited the digital tech's findings. Finally, Becky emerged from the analysis room, her face a mix of excitement and concern. "Detective Riley, Officer James, I've made some intriguing discoveries in the footage," she reported, her voice betraying a sense of urgency. Riley and James exchanged glances, their anticipation growing. "Tell us what you found, Becky," Riley urged, his voice filled with determination. Becky pulled up a series of enhanced images on the computer screen, pointing out a suspicious figure lurking near the cherry tree moments before the discovery of the severed head. The individual appeared to be wearing dark clothing, their face partially obscured by a hooded sweatshirt. Like video from Kate's murder, the killing itself is scrambled, working on decrypting it. However, this person seems to be connected to the crime scene, Becky explained. "I'll continue enhancing the footage to gather more details, but it's clear that they played a significant role in this heinous act." Riley leaned in closer, studying the images intently. The emergence of a suspect provided a glimmer of hope in their pursuit of justice. With this crucial lead, they had a starting point for their investigation, someone to track down and interrogate. "Becky, keep working on it," Riley instructed. "We need to identify this person and uncover their motives. We won't rest until we bring them to justice." The race against time had intensified, but with Becky's digital expertise and the newly obtained footage, they had taken a crucial step forward. The shadows were beginning to reveal their secrets, and Riley and James were determined to unveil the truth behind these gruesome acts.